The screen is drowned in a thick darkness. A drumbeat sounds, sparse, heavy, then accelerating like the heart of an athlete charging onto the field. Interspersed are the sounds of a Super Bowl crowd, roaring, whistling, cheers mingled with excitement and frenzy. A voiceover cuts in, not a typical narrator's tone, but like an indictment read aloud in a courtroom. What happens when music ceases to be entertainment and becomes a weapon? When a Latin artist stands at the center of America's biggest stage, the Super Bowl halftime show, and refuses to bow. When he turns every reggaeton beat into a signal shot for a forgotten people.
And when the ringmaster is John Oliver, the man notorious for turning every conversation into a public trial.
A flash of light, images of Puerto Rico ravaged by a hurricane, interspersed with scenes of the Super Bowl crowd dancing.
The music tempo intensifie, the drum like firecracker exploding.
The voiceover concludes, like the gavel of justice crashing down. The answer isn't just an interview.
It's a clash.
A cultural earthquake. And tonight, you will witness it firsthand.
The lights snap on, sweeping across the auditorium.
The John Oliver studio appears like an arena, the audience packed tight, every face eager, some holding Puerto Rican flags, some wearing football jerseys. Behind Oliver, a massive screen flickers with images, the American flag mixed with the Puerto Rican flag, each flag overlapping, colliding, then shattering into brilliant pieces of light.
The camera sweeps from above, a slow pan like a hawk scanning for prey.
Oliver leans on his chair, in a dark suit, his half-smile containing both irony and curiosity. In front of him is an empty chair, a space carrying invisible pressure, because the one about to sit there is not just a singer, but a cultural icon and a challenger of power.
The background music fade, leaving only the audience's murmure.
Oliver clears his throat, the microphone light turning on.
The space suddenly feel heavy, like the moment before a trial Beugin.
And then the name is announced.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bad Bunny. Reggaeton music burst forth, the bass vibrating the floor.
The side door of the stage opens. Bad Bunny walks out tall, wearing a coat printed with the Puerto Rican flag, beneath it a simple white shirt that exudes arrogance. His mirrored sunglasses reflect the studio lights, as if concealing his eyes but magnifying his charisma. The audience roars with applause, some shouting his name as if at a concert. John Oliver stands up, shakes Bad Bunny's hand with a wry smile. Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, or should I just call you the man responsible for 90% of the world's reggaeton headaches?
The audience log.
Benito smirks, removes his sunglasses, revealing a fiery gaze.
Call me Benito. Bad Bunny is for the music. Tonight, it's the man you're talking to.
Oliver gives a slight nod, a flicker of amusement in his eyes, but his tone remains sarcastic. Perfect. Because tonight's not a concert, it's a conversation. And maybe a fight. The tense atmosphere, part talk show, part boxing match, settles as Oliver leans in, his voice cutting. Critics say you're too political. The Super Bowl halftime show is for entertainment, not lectures. Why drag politics into America's biggest party? Benito responds with unflinching resolve. Music is never neutral. Every beat carries history.
You don't tell Bruce Springsteen to shut up about America.
Why should I shut up about Puerto Rico? A deafening mix of applause and whistles erupts. Oliver's half-smile returns. Interesting. So you're not just here to sing, you're here to fight. He snaps his fingers, and the screen behind him flashes tabloid headlines, questioning whether Spanish or politics belong on America's biggest stage. Oliver rests his hand on the armrest, his voice firing out like a prosecutor. Benito, these aren't my words. These are headlines. They're asking if your language, your identity, even belongs. That you're fine for streaming, fine for charts, but not good enough for America's biggest night. Do you feel perhaps that you're being told, stay in your lane?
The camera zoomed in close on Bad Bunny's face.
He is not smiling anymore. A deep breath, shoulders tense, his gaze like a knife edge. Yes. They love my music when it makes money. But they hate my language when it makes them uncomfortable. That's colonialism dressed up in a tuxedo. The audience gasps, like a clap of thunder.
Half the studio applauds fiercely, the other half silent, lips pressed tight. The air is heavy, like storm clouds gathering before they tear the sky.
Oliver tilts his head, his smile sharp as a needle. He lowers his voice, provocatively. So, let's imagine some guy in Iowa. He's sitting on his couch, drinking beer, yelling at the TV, "Stop whining."
Just sing in English.
What would you like to tell him?
À moment of silence, the microphone in Benito S. Endeavy en Iron Hammer.
He leans forward, his eyes cutting through the studio lights. I will never apologize for Spanish.
If you don't like it, mute your TV.
My culture is not your background noise, it's my identity.
The sound in the studio explode.
Some people jump up, whistling, shouting "Viva Puerto Rico." The camera pans across opposing faces, a middle-aged American man grimacing, a young woman raising her fist. Oliver raises an eyebrow, half astonished, half delighted. He turns to the audience, his voice exclaiming, "Well, that escalated quickly." The lights change color, lowering, as if the studio has just transformed into a courtroom. Oliver leans back, eyes narrowed, his voice suddenly slow, heavy as the gavel of justice crashing down.
Benito, let's be honest.
Some people say you're not fighting for Puerto Rico. They say you're using politics as PR. That your outrage is just branding, an image to sell more records, more tickets. Are you really fighting for your people, or just for your Spotify streams?
The auditorium goes dead silent.
Breathing is audible in the microphone.
The camera slowly vous monte au bas de Bunny's face.
No more smile, no more sunglasses.
Only eyes like smoldering fire.
He lifts the microphone, his voice husky but resolute. I don't need politics to sell.
My music sell because people feel it.
But silence? Silence is betrayal. If I don't speak, I'm part of the problem. I would rather be hated for the truth than loved for nothing.
Applause erupt, fier sawav crashing against a rocky shore.
A few whistles of protest squeal from afar.
The tension compound, like dark clouds gathering before a storm.
Oliver slightly smiles, the smile of someone who has just ignited a major explosion. Oliver doesn't let his opponent rest. He gestures, and the screen behind him flares up again. Rumors, blogs, Twitter memes with the title Bad Bunny 2 turned Super Bowl into protest rally. His voice is rapid fire, like an interrogation. You've said you'll bring politics into your halftime show. So tell us straight, are you planning to turn the Super Bowl into a protest rally? Millions of Americans tune in for football, not a lecture. The auditorium holds its breath. Benito laughs, but the laugh is cold, like a cutting knife. He raises his head, replying,
I don't lecture.
I sing. But sometimes a lyric hits harder than a fist. And yes, I will bring Puerto Rico to that stage. Loud.
Visible. Une apologétique.
Cheers erupt, like an explosion. The camera pans across the audience, half standing and cheering, half sitting still, faces flushed with anger. Oliver feigns shock, clutching his chest, his voice sarcastic. Well, congratulations. You've just guaranteed a full week of Fox News meltdown. And possibly a very angry phone call from Roger Goodell. The audience laughs bitterly, but the air remains taut, like a guitar string stretched to its limit, waiting to snap in the final showdown.
The lights focus only on the two faces, like two gladiators in a ring of fire. The camera zoom close, catching every bead of sweat on Oliver's forehead, every spark in Bad Bunny's eyes.
Oliver leans forward, his voice like a dagger.
So let's cut the dance.
Do you believe, yes or no, that the United States treats Puerto Rico like a colony?
A deadly silence.
The audience holds its breath. Benito raises the microphone, without blinking, each word spitting out like a bullet. Yes. We are Americans when you want our soldiers, not when we need electricity. We are Americans when Wall Street wants profit, not when hurricanes destroy us. That is colonialism. Shouts erupt. Half the auditorium stands and cheers Viva Puerto Rico. The other half protests, a few piercing whistles. The camera quickly pans across faces, flushed with anger, fists raised. Oliver lunges forward, his voice hissing through gritted teeth. And you're saying, you'll put that truth, this explosive, divisive truth, smack in the middle of America's biggest party?
Benito grips the microphone tight, hammering it down on.